Good afternoon. How are you, Tim?
Good. Yes, it's afternoon.
Just barely afternoon. All right, guys, here we are, and it's Thursday. It's week 36, and amazingly enough, we still have things that we want to talk to our congressman about. So I'm going to pass this around, and folks can sign in. And we have a number of different topics today, Tim, that we wanted to talk about. Obviously, gun control is going to be one of them. And DACA. So Karen is coming with a beautiful dual-sided sign. It has the Save DACA side, and it has the Gun Control Now side. And folks have different things that they want to say and lead off. So who would like to go first? Nathan?
Yeah, I'll go first. Absolutely. Yeah. Hi, Tim. How are you doing? Good. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah. Okay. So there are a couple things that I wanted to bring up today, and I think some other people are going to talk about the gun control and the bumper stock or the bump stock. So I'll pass over that. But one thing that's very concerned me this week has been the corruption that we've seen. There have been various corruption stories have come forth. And so I wanted to bring up this story of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office that had been investigating a fraud case with the Trump children. Mm-hmm. And that apparently this case was stopped because apparently the Manhattan District Attorney had been bought off by Trump's lawyer, Mark Kasowitz. So this was just in the New York Times this week, and the district attorney, Cyrus Vance Jr., I think that's his name, Vance. Vance. He had been bought out for $50,000. There was a $50,000 donation that Donald Trump's lawyer, Mark Kasowitz, gave to the Manhattan district attorney, who overruled his own staff, his own investigators under him, said, we are going to go forward with this, get a grand jury, and he said, no, we're not going to do it. So I believe this requires an investigation. Yeah. I mean, there are other instances of corruption and hypocrisy. Another thing that has shocked me this week is this breaking news about Jared Kushner's emails. Mm-hmm. That he not only he and his wife Ivanka Trump, but apparently 6 other people on the White House staff were using private emails, which is a shocking thing just in terms of hypocrisy when we consider how important a theme this was during the election.
That's right.
And one could say that the hypocrisy of this question and the fact that there's no investigation is shocking on the face of it, but I should also say that it's actually dangerous for our country because we don't know about the classified information that could have been there. So
lock them up.
Yeah, I mean, lock them up. I mean, I don't know that that in of itself requires a lockup, but it should be investigated.
That's right.
The fact that that's going on in silence, and I think probably maybe people do need to be locked up over buying off a district attorney. So those are 2 things that I hope that Pat TIberi will support investigations into.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That's
thank
great.
you so much.
Yeah. Hannah?
Just an addition to that, and I'll just introduce myself. My name is Hannah Igerman. I'm a constituent in Clintonville. It seems to me kind of run-of-the-mill corruption in the departments. I think that Congress could certainly take an interest in why public money is being spent, for instance, on the the private planes and the sorts of the security booths, the things that the department heads are treating themselves to at public expense that have not been used before and that is necessary before. I think in general there's an ethos of corruption and greed that TIberi oughtn't to want to identify with, and when he hooks himself up to the folks in the administration, which he seems to do routinely, I'm very disappointed.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's very important. Come on up.
That's the crux of the matter, isn't it?
The conservative, and I respect this, the Republicans, is government waste, and they're always been their thing, and yet it's like this is happening, and the people that are always against government waste, it's happening right under your nose, and somebody's going to have to call them out on this stuff. It's got to, at some point. You know this. TIberi knows this. I understand politics, but this is bad.
And I think what's distressing is that it's so, if you have a strict rule that's been followed for decades and people have, tried to follow ethical rules to the best of their ability, and we've had the ethical watchdogs and things, and then you have somebody like Trump come into office who is he's just a known lawbreaker, con man, that's his modus operandi, and it has been his whole life, and he's the leader, and so, and he's chosen other people who have a similar way of operating, and many ethical issues. His whole cabinet is filled with people with conflicts of interest, and they all seem to be out there, getting in their European vacations while they're doing government business, and this is just not how things should be. And the irony, of course, is they're all filthy rich as it is. It's not as if they, need us to subsidize their vacations. That's absurd. So I think we all know that there are more honest and ethical ways of doing things that would be beneficial to our country. So thank you, Nathan and Hannah, for bringing up those corruption issues, and David. Anybody else?
I got one.
Yeah, Chris.
Okay, so I understand that Mr. TIberi and I are never going to agree about abortion, and I have not going to talk about abortion except that I'm just appalled that that got put to the forefront and we let chip expire.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's 9 million children
That's 9
without
million
health
children.
insurance.
It's kids that my kids know who have like diabetes and stuff, and now they can't get their insulin and they're gonna die.
Yeah.
That is not pro-life.
Yeah.
For life.
Charles?
Yeah. My name is Charles Miles. I live in Clintonville. I have 3 short things. First of all, today is the day that we're asked to contact our representatives, support the DREAM Act. These young people in good faith registered with the government, and by all the analysis that I've ever seen, they're a net positive to the country and to the economy. So I would like for the congressman to support the Dreamers.
Yep.
I would also like for him to support the Children's Health Act. I think it's called CRIP. The
Chip.
CRIP, right?
CHIP.
CHIP.
Yeah.
CHIP. Support CHIP. There's millions of children that are dependent on this, and it's nonsensical to me that some of the proposals have been that we're going to take money out of Medicare or other health care services to do this because we can't afford to do it. Yet, at the same time, the Congress has given the Department of Defense more money than the Department of Defense requested.
So crazy.
So there's that. And my third and last one, that's kind of pushed me over the edge this week, is our response to the tragedy in Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm. Or non-response.
Yeah,
Which is
or lack of response. Well, I mean, that's well documented that we weren't on top of things, that the government was not on top of things. And now we're into this, going to start into this redevelopment issue. And it's important to me that Puerto Rico be developed in a way that's a model for sustainable development. And that means a couple of things. One is appropriate use of renewable energy, and hopefully wean them off coal and oil that have to be shipped in from the continental United States at great cost. And the other thing, and it also gives them more freedom to do things. And the other thing is to, just get rid of this 1920 Jones Act. Yeah. That is I know that many people didn't know about this act. I certainly didn't. But, our government's position has been complicit. We've, into the fact of their economic troubles, because it costs them 20% more for everything than it would be if stuff was shipped directly there. Mm-hmm. And that's not their issue. So we need to develop them appropriately. And I'm concerned because both the President and the Department of Energy and the EPA have contacts to to coal and oil, and that's what they're going to want to do is coal and oil.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the wrong thing, absolutely the wrong thing to do for Puerto Rico. And they're gonna. The President came out the day after and says, "Well, we're not going to suspend the Jones Act because I talked to the shippers and they don't want to." Well, of course they don't want to. I mean, it's big money in their pocket. So we need to have some deep thought about what's sustainable with development. Make this a model for the future rather than just cause more dependency. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So it's about leadership, and thank you, Charles. It's about leadership, and it's about not just doing the easiest thing and the things that your buddies are doing and the things that your cronies are doing and the things that will benefit, the people that you go and golf with. And that's so easy for Trump to do. So where's the hard work of, not doing what your cronies want and not doing what your golf buddies want and doing what's actually best, what's economically best, what's environmentally best, what's best for our nation. And we don't see that work being done. We see a lot of cronyism, we see a lot of golf buddies, and we see a lot of people in departments doing like the opposite of what they're supposed to be doing. We see Scott Pruitt spending all his time running around talking to the industries rather than talking with environmental groups or scientists. And it all kind of links into the same thing. So we need leadership, and we're not getting that. And that's something that Pat TIberi could help push the president on and push the cabinet secretaries on and demand to see what the scientists say about that and what are the long-term plans for redevelopment of Puerto Rico, not just to go along with whatever gets said. So thank you. Karen?
That was good. All right, well, first of all, I want to say the comments about Secretary Tillerson wasting his time talking to North Korea is just blood-chilling.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot have our president just saying we are going to just use military force and that is it. We need diplomacy and we need to staff up our State Department.
That's right.
And I think it was Senator Corker who said there's 3 people who are keeping us from chaos. And that's not including the president because he's the chaos.
That's right.
The main theme it seems like we're talking about here today is money.
Mm-hmm.
Money is making all of the decisions in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And money is why so many of us are concerned about the gun lobby and its control over the Republican Party. It seems like Americans have become collateral damage to the gun lobby and to the Republican Party. They don't seem to care when people are killed in the streets. More Americans have died from guns in the United States since 1968 than all the battlefields of every war that the Americans have fought in since the Revolutionary War. And that fact was true in 2015, and there's just been more and more mass murders since then. That does include murder, suicide, and accidents, but it's all by guns. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
Mm-hmm.
We are begging Republicans to stop the insanity and to let us live in peace. We are demanding universal background checks. We're demanding a ban on the sale of guns to those people with serious mental illness. We're demanding a ban on automatic weapons. We're demanding modification kits and bump stocks be banned. We're demanding that there be a ban on the sale of gun silencers, and Congressman TIberi has a vote on that coming soon. and we demand that he not vote for gun silencers.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
We also demand that he votes against the bullets that can penetrate police protective vests and gear.
Of course.
Yes.
Right now, the gun lobby and its money is doing all the talking, and we are saying enough is enough. We want sanity, we want to live. And I've included page after page of information about the innocent people that were just standing in a concert, listening to music. Some of them were wearing cowboy boots with American flags on them. They're teachers, parents, mothers, police officers. All these people should be alive, but Republicans put money over their lives, and they should be alive today.
Thank you, Karen. And on the
Yes,
gun.
I just want to piggyback on what Karen said. It is a real conflict of interest to accept tons of money from the NRA, and this is a list. Here's Representative TIberi, who's accepted in a certain period of time $25,400 from the NRA. Our state senator Portman has accepted over $3 million during his tenure from the NRA. So when it comes time to vote on common sense approaches to gun control, these people are far less likely to do what's right versus do what they've been paid to do, which is to support whatever position the NRA has.
That's right.
The New York Times editorial from October 2nd said that in 477 days, there were 521 mass shootings in this country, but zero action from Congress.
Zero, guys.
Zero action
Zero.
from Congress. And a really sad fact is that Americans want solutions. There was a poll done in June 22nd through 27th of this year before the Las Vegas shooting, and they asked, the question was, do you support or oppose requiring background checks for all gun buyers? 94% total favor background checks. 93% of the Republicans polled favor background checks. 98% of the Democrats polled favor background checks. Americans want background checks.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's this kind of money
Mm-hmm.
poured into the system, the representatives are not listening to the 94% of Americans. They are listening to the $25,000 of NRA money.
That's right. Thank you.
Well, this is really amazing database, and I think we are on the same page. So I'm just going to read I'm heartbroken by what happened. I see an enormous hypocrisy in how politicians tackle health issues versus gun issues. So just one question for Congressman. For over 30 weeks, actually 36,
Yep.
constituents like us have asked for answers from Pat TIberi, have demanded a town hall meeting time and again, which never happened. We may want to know, we may want to ask you, for instance, this is what I want to ask you, by what Christian or even Republican principle do you advocate in our name for a society where there is easier access to guns than to healthcare, or for that matter, to a decent public education? Why are guns artifacts explicitly made to cause physical harm, an alleged inalienable right, but being healed from their wounds is not? We are listening.
Thank you, Carolina. Anyone have? Yep.
I've got a question. It's Tim.
Yes.
This president's fracturing the Republican Party. I mean, it's going to happen. And what side's Pat going to come out on this?
Yeah.
I mean, is he going to go with Jim Jordan, the Freedom Caucus? I know he started the Main Street Caucus, but it's going to come to an end here soon. And I'm just wondering where he's going to land in his own party.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to speculate, but I'll pass it along.
Yeah, he needs to think about that. It's serious.
Kasich.
Yeah, I mean,
Has he commented on Kasich? what he said?
Mm-mm.
I got friends that are Republicans. I have some respect for them, but man, this president is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
You know it. TIberi knows it. Everyone knows it. They're just not standing up to him.
And that's really true. Can I get somebody to just, thank you, sorry. Tim, and Trump is, you know, a whole different category, and it opens a whole different series of kind of evil Pandora boxes with, you know, things coming out. But it is also true that a lot of these things have been building up in the Republican Party for a long time, and particularly the just straight up lying about the whole gun control issue. I mean, and I get it that our country is very divided about this, and there are people who have very, very strong feelings on one side or the other of the issue. But the idea that you can't regulate something that is, by its very nature, designed to kill people. But I think Nick Kristof in the New York Times this morning had a thing, you know, there's like 17 pages of regulations about ladders. I mean, we all know, you know, that if somebody had been killed by a ladder, that, you know, immediately something would happen about it. You know, refrigerators, or, you know, there's everything in our world is regulated to try to protect us, sometimes to a degree of absurdity, and sometimes, you know, in a healthy way, because, you know, that's the nature of capitalism, is that people are going to build products and they're going to try to sell them whether or not they're safe sometimes, and so that's the role of government, is to try to make sure that, you know, the capitalists can run their businesses, but that their products don't kill people by mistake. Okay, I guess it's okay if they kill people on purpose. That's different for some reason, you know. And we're talking about, you know, a Second Amendment which was about a well-regulated militia of people carrying muskets that took a minute to load and shot one bullet. And as Nathan was pointing out earlier, they don't even, you know, they don't even shoot straight. So if you had took 20 people with a musket to kill someone, you know, 50 paces away, this is basically has nothing to do with what we're looking at today. It's the difference between, you know, a supersonic jet and somebody with, you know, a little cart that they're pulling like this. They're not the same thing. A gun in 1789 is not the same thing as a gun today. And the idea that for some reason there's almost a religious sense that we can't regulate that thing. If we regulate that thing, we're breaking the Constitution, even if it means thousands upon thousands upon thousands of innocent people have to die every year, including babies, including children who kill their parents by mistake. I mean, the kinds of things that happen in this country. And it's not rocket science. It's, you know, people have solved this problem in other countries. And this whole business, we can't regulate evil. Yes, you can. People, that's what government does. They try to regulate against evil. They try to, you know, all the arguments are just nonsensical on the face of it. This isn't the time. It is the time. It's exactly the time. Just as it's the time when there's a terrorist attack, that's the time to talk about terrorism. And when there's a hurricane, that's the time to talk about climate change. The time when you realize that there's a problem, that's the time to talk about the problem and to try to solve the problem. Okay, and the idea that we can just time and time again say, oh, this isn't the time to talk about it, and, you know, these are our inalienable rights. It's ridiculous, and I think it's even, you know, this week was such a telling week that the people who called this office to ask Pat TIberi to vote against the gun silencers were told that he was still in favor of gun silencers because it would hurt the hunters' ears. Now, honestly, you could be 4 years old and know that that was a nonsense. That is a nonsense. That is nonsense. You know, it doesn't matter who you are. Even if you support gun rights, you know that that is nonsense. And it wasn't until the NRA said, okay, let's pull that bill, let's set it aside for a while, you know, let things calm down. Now we're not talking about it. But Pat TIberi came out in favor of a bill to allow gun silencers. Honestly, I can't even, you know, I can't that you could sit there and say that and have convinced yourself in your head that you're saying something true. It's like a little kid and they're covered with chocolate and you say to them, did you eat chocolate? No, I didn't eat chocolate. I mean, Pat, save yourself. Honestly, you're embarrassing yourself. Arguing that gun silencers should be allowed, you're embarrassing yourself. It's an embarrassment. Any adult can tell you that is embarrassing. We all know that that is nonsense. Okay, and we have someone here.
It's ludicrous because I grew up hunting. It's just,
yeah.
that's ludicrous.
As Anne's postcard shows, put on ear protection. There's various products which are used for ear protection, and you can use those. You really don't need to use a gun silencer. This is it, people. Put something to cover your ears. If you need to shoot a gun a bunch of times, cover your ears. You don't need Pat TIberi to come to your rescue. Okay, I bet that, what do you want to bet that the ear muffs are less expensive than the silencer? And what do you think the police, what do you think the police think about this? You think that America's police officers want there to be silencers as opposed to ear coverings? Yeah.
They need to hear gunfire.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. So please, you're embarrassing yourself. Sometimes you have some arguments, we disagree on the merits of the arguments, fine. This is just, I was paid by the NRA to say this nonsensical thing. And I have convinced myself in my head that it makes sense. But we're letting you in on this, Pat. No. Nobody else. You're embarrassing yourself. Everybody else knows it's nonsense. Okay, so take the money part out of it. Take the money part out of it. Don't think about, what's good for the gun industry. Think about what's good for the health and safety of American citizens. And that doesn't have to mean, we're collecting everybody's guns. That's not what we're saying. I saw a really funny little meme, which was, the person said, let's make sure that we have background checks. And what the person heard was, we want to take all your guns, melt them down into a statue of an NFL player kneeling. No, that's not what we said.
That's not what.
Not what we said. Background checks, not nonsense like this. Okay, so listen is what we're saying. Anyway, thank you. That was a bit of a long rant there.
That was a good rant.
It's
true.
We want to, we're going to be, Tim, because we know we see you every time, or other folks here, and we're going to be trying to do a bit of a better effort every week of making a formal request for a meeting, and through your scheduler, and also handing in some piece of a letter requesting a response from the congressman about a specific thing every week, because we just feel like we're banging our heads against the wall here. We've come every week for 36 weeks. We've asked to meet. We've asked for a town hall. We've asked for responses about certain issues. And you're doing your job awesomely, and you are writing down, I'm sorry, may I just show the notes that Tim has made? He writes down the notes. He takes careful notes about what we're saying, and he passes that along to the congressman. But the congressman is not doing as good a job as Tim is, because the congressman is not responding to us about those things. And he's not setting up meetings, and he's not having a town hall. And he's, every once in a while we get a form letter by email or in the mail. But honestly, not even that often. So we want the congressman to do at least as good a job as Tim. That's what we're aiming for. And so we're going to be keeping better track of that. So thank you for your time. Yeah. See you next week.
Yeah.
See you then.